Welcome back. Time now to look into the papers, and joining us this morning is the commissioning editor of the Conversation Africa, Mr. Wale Fatade. Good morning, Mr. Fatade. It's good to see you.
Good morning. Good to see you too.
Yeah.
Good morning, Bukola. Good morning, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the conversation before I came on here. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And interesting.
Interesting. We're trying to mirror the Conversation Africa. I'm sure it's part of your talking points there as well. But let's begin with, right where we stopped, and I'm sure you would like to weigh in on it. And this is also being reported by This Nigeria. Legal bombshell hits ADC. And it's interesting that they didn't mention the other political parties, Mr. Fatade. But there's one rider, court orders INEC to deregister party for others. Atiku kicks petitions NJC. So it would seem as if really this is being, it's the ADC that is being targeted, but the other parties just fall into the mix somehow, curiously. But we would like to know your thoughts.
Well, I think it's good enough that you are bringing a senior advocate to expatiate on that matter. But for me, as just a journalist who has reported politics in Nigeria, I think there are just 2 or 3 questions for me. 1 or 2 of them you have mentioned. The first one is that there is the order by the appeal court that Justice Lifu should stay proceedings on that matter until the other issues, the pending issues before the appeal court are determined. And I think that's a higher court. So basic court reporting teaches us that in Nigeria. So if an high court is now giving an order that is overriding the order of an appeal court, maybe the National Judicial Council might want to look into Justice Lifu's judgment. That's one for me. The second one, the parties that filed the suit, in law, there's that phrase called medusum interloper. Have they been able to show sufficiently that the actions of ADC and these other parties have injured them? Do they have a local standard to institute that case? Or are they now standing as amicus curiae or whatever? Are they expanding jurisprudence or what are they doing? That's the second thing for me. Then the third thing, INEC is headed by a professor of law and a senior advocate of Nigeria too. Now I'm aware part of their zonal commissioners or whatever they call them, those ones that are above the resident electoral commissioners, some are lawyers. I'm aware some of the resident electoral commissioners are lawyers. INEC has a fully funded legal department. Where were they all these days that if those parties indeed are fouling the Constitution or are fouling the Electoral Act, why has INEC not stopped them from whatever acts of illegality they have been committing? So I think this judgment is more political than legal. We are no lawyers, but it's sad. Even at this stage of our democracy, since 1999, any child born in 1999 to now, his life should have taken shape. He or she should be a father or mother if they are serious. So if this is what we'll be grappling with at this moment, I think it's so shameful. And if somebody asks me, as of today, this might change tomorrow. I'm not even sure ADC and what's the other one, NDC, can muster enough votes or enough strength to dislodge APC because of what is on the ground. And so why can't the government of the day, if indeed it has a hand in this, why can't they let APC be and let the other parties be too? It's sad, that's all.
Well, the argument continues. Let's see whether we can go to the Vanguard newspaper. I'm going to take on a lot of stories because of the time we have, so you can help us intervene. The Vanguard newspaper leads deregistration verdict. Atiku, Mark, Adeleke, Fume vowed to be on ballot. The same thing that we just talked about, but this time you're hearing their comments now, their response. So I would like you to comment on their response. Why court ordered
I think they should keep up the pressure. They should keep up sustained pressure. And by the way, I'm an interested party. Osun is my home state, and I was in Osun last week. And I think the fact of the matter is that Governor Adeleke is incredibly popular among his citizens. By the way, the Accord party's banners across some places I visited were torn gladly, and you could see that these were acts of vandalization. But the reality is that the citizens know who they are going to vote for. The citizens know who they want. The citizens know who are performed better for them. So I think they should keep up the pressure. That's all. This battle is more political than legal.
I'm happy you put out that footnote that you're an interested party. So Let's go to the top of that nameplate.
Oh, yeah, that's in the interest of full disclosure, so that you will know that I'm bothered about it is the remittances of those of us who don't live and work in Osun State years back that sustain Osun. So we should be much more interested in what happens in Osun.
Let's go to that very top story. I tried to do a bit of the economic analytics of how inflation numbers and interest rates and FX interplay in determining the health of an economy and how the president prioritizes fiscal sustainability and revenue generation over cost of living. And he has his reasons for that. It's now for Nigerians to say whether they agree with him or not. But let's say headline inflation rate hits 15.93%, rising third consecutive month. You know, we made a lot of gains after the rebasing from about 20, I think 24, 25, I need to remember that, to about 15. And now we're losing the speed because of what is playing out in the Iran, US, and Israel war. Mr. Fatade?
Yes, please.
I would like you to speak to the issue of inflation numbers.
Well, you know, and you should know now, Jeffrey, the nice way I love to say this is that strip of all the economic indices, the one that Mr. Rewani and his fellow economists regularly expatiate on in your studio and other programs. The reality is that Nigerians are suffering. That's the reality. I mean, somebody was lamenting on Sunday how it took him 160,000 naira to move from Lagos to Oyo Ogbomoso in Oyo State. And I mean, that's serious, as in the petrol cost. And so we all know what you buy when you go to market. And people will be telling me that the stock market is making gains. Beautiful, and those things are good. But the reality is how many Nigerians are active players in the stock market beyond the pension fund or all those institutional investors? So does that percolate down? Fine, we have merged the foreign exchange window, but is the naira still trading higher? It's about 1,300 watching your scroll tape early this morning. It's about 1,390 something plus. So that was not where it was before this government came to power. So if all those economic gains are really, really there like that, the evidence that stares us at the face as citizens of this country show that things are not like that. 15,000, 20,000 when you hold it now, it can't take us anywhere. I mean, how much are they selling a wrap of amala? I think for me, and you know, we have this in economics reporting, they taught us, basket of inflation or basket of entities or whatever. How much is a loaf of bread? How much does it take to feed an average child? How much does a tin of milk cost? These are better indices for me. We have rebased. I mean, whether they can argue them, I mean, Mr. Oyedele will come out and say things are moving on the president. But the reality is that the bitter piece Nigerians are being forced to swallow is leaving a stomach upset for us. And we can all see that.
Yeah. Before I leave the paper, before it comes to you, so, Mr. Fatade, you know, I did say that they prioritize fiscal sustainability and revenue generation over the other element in the micro. So that's why two things are true at the same time. On one hand, you can see the FX reserve going up. You can see the capital importation. You can see the markets. I mean, the capital market now, the stock market.
The capital market.
Yes, the stock market has gained significantly in terms of significant percentage. But it's also true that poverty prevails. It's also true that cost of living is very high. So that is a clear decision the government has made. The gap is what has been the problem. How to fill that gap is what has been the problem, and that's why we're challenging when and how are you going to fill this gap. But let's talk about xenophobia, just where we understand the South African minister has talked about this. It's a page 27 read on the front page of the Vanguard. Artist shows are being cancelled across Africa. Mr. Fatade.
There'll be more of that. It's not a curse. There'll be more of that. And for people of my generation and those before me, who were part of the liberation movement as far as it were, because I remember attending the University of Ibadan with South Africans on scholarship of the Nigerian government. I remember that very well, very well. And until now, a lot of people never knew that Thabo Mbeki once had a Nigerian passport or once lived there. Our government actually issued passports to South Africans, I mean, under apartheid. Nigeria led a boycott, was it the 1968 Munich Olympics, because of apartheid. And so we are not asking you that you open your borders for us, or we are not asking you that all restrain migration. But what we are saying is that the spirit of Ubuntu, the spirit of solidarity, that all the rest Africans supported South Africa, where is it? And by the way, my parents' generation were actually the ones whose salaries were deducted to support NACAP, National Commission Against Apartheid. It was a commission in the presidency, just like you have NDDC now, whatever, which was really, I mean, I'm sure people like Yogaba, Professor Balaji Akinjemi, thank God he's here alive. People like Yogaba will be turning in his grave, seeing what South Africa has become now. So, the Mr. or Mrs. Minister, or Madam Minister, you will see more of that. Ventilating or fulminating that Africans supported Mexico is just the beginning. A lot of folks are still rooting for South Korea, so that's the way it is. South Africa is sadly going to be isolated, and that will be worse for them.
You know, and the interesting thing is that, you know, when you listen to officials, they keep doubling down. I mean, South African government officials.
At certain level, it has the imprimatur of the state. The nation state is actively supporting these xenophobic attacks. That's the reality.
Yeah, and the irony of that, Mr. Fatade, is that government officials keep doubling down on that view that South Africans are not xenophobic, and you know it's at variance.
The evidence points to the
contrary. Absolutely. And so you know we wonder if that is symptomatic of their lack of what we say political will here to actually tackle that challenge of xenophobia.
It is an official state policy. It might not be enunciated like that in the books, but that's what it is.
But let's head to other stories. Perhaps we'll remain on the front page of the Vanguard this morning to look at other interesting stories. And I'm going to tie this with what, you know, we have been reporting in the last 48 hours. Go atop the nameplate of the Vanguard this morning. Right there in the middle, you see terrorism. Federal government resumes mass trial of 600 Boko Haram suspects. That would be cheery to note because, you know, was it 2 months ago, there were some outcomes from the court with the conviction of a number of terror suspects. But we also saw in the last 48 hours, the Borno state government, you know, concluding a program of reintegration for over 700 what we call repentant Boko Haram suspects. We also saw that happen some months back in another state, northern state. This time around, it was a federal government program of Operation Safe Corridor. Does it make you wonder, you know, from where you sit, about the number of people that we're up against in this fight against insurgency and banditry? 600 is quite a number. The last time it was over 700, and now we're prosecuting 600 suspects. Does it make you wonder what is the population size of these non-state actors in the first place? And is Nigeria, a Nigerian state institution, security agencies, positioned with, you know, the firepower to rival and rein in on this menace, this cancerous insurgency and banditry?
Well, you've asked, like the good reporter that you are, you've asked many questions together, roll into one. Let's see whether we can strip them one after the other. Number one, first for me, kudos to our soldiers, kudos to our intelligence officers. We have seen that there is absolute lack of political will. We have seen that. But for those of them who have lost their lives, I commiserate with their families. Those of them who have paid the supreme price, we just pray that the Lord God will comfort their families. That's one side. Number two, for us at the Conversation Africa, we have published research that shows that this theory or this practice of forgiveness or reintegration is not working. Number one, we are battling an ideological battle. And you cannot reorientate somebody who is an ideologue. It's like communism or socialism or what have you. I mean, so look at Cuba today. You can't change an ideology like that. That they've been orientated. You have taught them, you are recommissioning them, and you throw them back to the society. There have been instances, and journalists like you and I have reported this, that some of those who have been arrested were those who were once trained like that, who were once set free. You know, the concept of Uwa boy, that you can go and you are now free, you can start your own trade. It's not working. That's the reality. And I think, I'm not sure, the evidence tells us at the face that Does our government, actually successive governments now, have they shown sufficient will to fight terrorism? Now, look at the confusion, which at a certain level was deliberate, that trailed that general that was killed. Now, we are believing that the state government, Katsina State, issued a statement that he died of natural causes. He died of complications of diabetes and hypertension. But we've seen the children and the family coming out to say, no, our father, our husband, never had diabetes, never was hypertensive. So what happened? And there's still something that we don't know yet. Perhaps this is for those of us who are journalists to find out. How was his body released to the Katsina State government? Now, the woman that we saw yesterday, thank God for that. Was she rescued or was she released too? Remember before, the stuff that was issued was actually that the wife too was released until we saw those photos again yesterday. So where are we? And then if the government cannot level up with citizens, you are telling us you have many things to hide than you are willing to reveal. Fine, we grant it that security issues might not be something that must be open, but there is basic level of decency, there's basic level of transparency, basic level of honesty. Part of the things successive governments battle in Nigeria is distrust of the people in government. And citizens that have been serially beaten, serially oppressed, serially deceived, serially cheated, they find it difficult to trust government. And those are the things that we see. I'm happy for the woman that has been released. Now it's imagined that she was shot. And I wish her quick recovery. Perhaps the condolences to her for becoming a widow that was never planned.
And you see right there on the front page, the picture of, front page of the Vanguard now, the picture of the widow rescued and hospitalized. She sustained gunshot injuries, according to reports. And at the bottom of the picture, you see there, kidnapped Kwara monarch dies in captivity after 18 million naira ransom payment. I hope that is correct. 18 or 1.8 million naira ransom payment. And you see also, that's 18. And you see, Mr. Fatade, either it's in the southeast or in the southwest, it appears as if traditional rulers are now being targeted. They're being murdered or being kidnapped. Now,
and part of Ekiti State too, yeah.
Now, can communities at this deepest level be accessed without some form of compromise, without informants, leaking information to these non-state actors? And how can this be tackled?
For most of us, sadly, we are sitting ducks or lame ducks waiting to be captured or waiting to be kidnapped. That's the reality. If you have followed the sad one that happened in your state very well, did you see how remote that area is? Did you see where some places they don't have even transmission bars that could help whenever there is an attack or there's possibility that could help in quick announcement or quick alert that this is about to happen in our area? Please come to our rescue. And we could see successive years of government neglect of those areas. Now the chickens have come home to roost. Those are the serious issues. Of course, we have seen again too, that must be put out, of the complicity of the citizens, of the locals in some of these areas. Perhaps possible, but the reality again is we have seen how far even the nearest police posts or police stations have formed this area. So the head or tail, Nigerians are the loser.
There must be something more behind the headlines of these stories to find out why traditional rulers are being targeted. But that's the much we can report this morning. And we must also thank you very much, Mr. Wale Fatade, for coming on the program. Mr.
A pleasure.
We have one more to go, I'm told. Jeffrey, you want to take that one?
No,
okay.
I think we're totally out of time.
All right.
Mr. Wale Fatade, always a delight to have you on the program. Always.
Thank you, Jeffrey. A pleasure to you. Thank you.
All right, we'll take a break, and when we come back after this break, we'll speak with the senior advocate of Nigeria. This issue around the deregistration order by the court, let's break it down for you. Stay with us.
Fuel tanker fall or underground pipe where they carry fuel burst, wetin you go do? You go carry buckets, begin the scoop fuel, or you go run far away from fire if it happen. You no get plenty time to think am. You get few seconds to do wetin make sense. Waka comot? No. You no reach. Shift small? No. That one no go work. Stand there, dey gist, or dey snap picture with your phone. That one na craze be that. Run! Yes, run comot. Because your life dey your hand. Fire fit show suddenly, unexpected, and e no dey easy to control. Why? Fuel dey catch fire quick. Just small shikini spark fit start big fire wey go scatter everywhere. No stay there dey think am. This life no get duplicate. Sharparly comot there, make you sef fit live. No go throw away your life for meaningless fuel scooping drama. No now, try get sense. Make you use your head o.
In every show, we bring you closer to the fastest growing movie industry in the world. From the making to the premiere. Get up close and personal with the stars and industry captains, plus reviews and much more. Nollywood Uncut, every week at these times.
Welcome back. It's still the morning brief, and we're starting our very first conversation. And of course, it's an apt time to look at developments in the last couple of hours, and of course against the backdrop of other related issues. And we're not far from politics, the 2027 general elections, as they have to do with litigations. Either it's the ADC or it's the PDP, they're mired in unresolved litigations. And so Justice Peter Alifu of the High Court in Abuja yesterday ordered INEC to deregister a number of political parties, ADC and ZLP, and Accord party is also in the mix, and I guess one or two other political parties, against the backdrop of the Section 225A of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. What does this mean for the 2027 general elections for these political parties, and of course for the ideals of Section 225 itself? And joining us on the program this morning is Mr. Kayode Adeluola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who is live for us virtually. Senior Advocate, good morning, sir. Welcome to the morning brief.
Good morning. Thank you for having me again this morning.
And so we've had time to ask questions around Section 225, and so we're glad that you're here to help us make sense of it all. First of all, I'd like you to weigh in on this against the backdrop of the fact that at every election cycle, some political parties may be new kids on the block. And doesn't this portion of the Constitution exclude them? And then the ADC has been at the polls before, and I heard the National Publicity Secretary of the party saying yesterday that, this judgment falls flat in the face because, they can present one or two elected officials that have won elections in the past. So how do you weigh in on this, sir?
Thank you. First of all, let us agree that opinions will differ when situations like this arise, even amongst who practice the law. But what we need to do first and foremost, because I'm not here as a politician, is to look at what the provisions of the law are. Now, the Constitution is the supreme body of laws that we have, and it guides how we do certain things in the country, our rights as individuals, our rights as corporate entities as well. Now, Section 225, which you just referred to as 225A, says that the INEC will have the power to deregister any political party that fails to comply or to meet those standards set in 225A. Namely, that if you fail to win 25% of the votes in one state in the presidential elections, you may be deregistered. Or if you fail to win 25% of the votes cast in a local government in a governorship election, you will be deregistered. And also, if you fail to win a ward in the course of the local government elections or a seat in the as a councillor. Now, the whole idea is to avoid having political parties that are just political parties in name. A political party should be a platform for politicians to participate in elections and to win. If you recall, Professor Jega, at the time he was chairman of INEC, deregistered, well, INEC under him deregistered, I think, about 74 parties that had just been bodies that were carried along without any traction. And that left us with 18 real political parties. Now, what you shouldn't do is prevent people from registering political parties. But once they are registered, they must not only comply with their own constitution and the law, but they must ensure that they also continue to comply with the provisions of the Constitution. Therefore, if these political parties, which have now been registered, failed to show that they had won any election, then INEC has the power to deregister. And I must add that the power given INEC to deregister does not say that it has to seek the leave of the court. As a matter of fact, INEC ought to have done its house clearing by looking at its list and seeing political parties that still had registration and had failed to fulfill the conditions in Section 225. However, we've had the forum of the corporate trustees of the forum of former legislators coming forward to say, INEC, you ought to do your work. So that's exactly the position we have. Of course, we know that a lot of opinions will differ, a lot of people will feel aggrieved, and especially so close to the elections, it's quite a pity indeed.
Now, Section 225A provides that INEC can deregister for a number of reasons. One, failure to win at least 25% of votes cast in one state of the election of the federation in a presidential election, or one local government of the state in a governorship election. C says failure to win at least one ward in the chairmanship election, one seat in the national or state house of assembly election, or one seat in the councillorship election. Now, what if a political party fulfills C but does not fulfill B, or fulfills B but does not fulfill C? Are they disqualified based on this possibility?
No, they won't be disqualified on that in that regard, because you see, the provision of 225 is not intended to catch political parties out. It is intended to have them have alternatives. So those the provisions are disjunctive. So you see, a political party may actually have its powerhouse in a local government. You cannot say that a party must win across the nation. A political party might be doing so well in a particular state or doing so in a particular local government. So you don't punish them for that. But what we're saying here is that the law, the Constitution says you cannot be, in a manner of speaking, a briefcase political party. Like you have shelf companies. You have companies that you have incorporated and waiting for the day they become useful. Political parties are not intended to be used for that purpose.
Now, one more thing before I yield to Jeffrey. Does the Constitution, this portion of the Constitution, anticipate the possibility of defection? Because, again, I refer to the conversation on our sister political program yesterday, where the National Publicity Secretary was referring to the member of the House of Representatives representing, that name fails me now, Jizi Yagba, Honorable Leke Abejide. But Honorable Leke Abejide has now defected to the All Progressives Congress, even though he won the election on the platform of the ADC. The party claims that it still has the certificate of return of that honorable member. Can the opposition then pick holes on the claims if this were to go further? And, you know, we're reflecting on this because of the value of the ideal of this portion of the Constitution. Can the opposition then, you know, pick holes in the claim of the political party to say that he's no longer a member of your party? Does it anticipate the possibility and the damage that defection can do to the claim of the defendants in this case?
Well, like I said, let us look at that provision of Section 225. If the political party has had a candidate that won an election in a particular election cycle, in my opinion, I think that serves the purpose of that section. Otherwise, it would mean that if you win an election on a particular political party's platform, and then you defect to another party, then you take that right away from that political party. I do not think that was the intent of that provision. The provision was that at the time you were participating in the election cycle, you had a candidate who won. Now, another election cycle may come, and then you're unable to win. Then, again, INEC will have a responsibility to do its house cleaning duties again to see whether this political party is just a dead wood that they carried along. But if ADC has a certificate of return to show that at the time they participated in elections, they actually won, I think it should be something for them to challenge this decision by. But then again, at the time this suit was going on, before the decision was taken, I do not know why the relevant political parties didn't apply to be joined so that they would have a say as well. Because with the parties before that court, I would imagine that we had the Attorney General, the INEC, and the Commission and what have you. But then again, I'm also aware that with Accord Party, there was an attempt to go before the Court of Appeal. They got there before the Court of Appeal and got an order staying further proceedings at the trial court. But that appeal was adjourned to October 2026, which will be very, very close to the election for 2027. Well, I don't know what the fate of that appeal would then be if this decision has been taken. But then again, I'm sure the lawyers will be able to advise them as to whether that appeal, the order of the Court of Appeal, should still subsist whilst this trial court was seized of the matter. Then again, it is for us to also look at the reaction of people and reaction of participants and politicians. The truth is, a judge has a responsibility to interpret the law and to give decisions based upon the law, not the sentiments of persons. It's a pity, but then again, I think that we are in a process of developing an electoral process and laws, and there will come a time when we shall have elections, primaries, registrations, and what have you, without this same process of having to go to the court to determine everything for us.
Let us say, we're going to come to the issue of sequencing and the timing, because the argument could also be, this is so close to election. INEC should have done this earlier, given Section 225. But another lawyer raised an important point, which you have said it in passing, because we cited the Court of Appeal enrolled order. So the question is whether a lower court can go ahead to deliver judgment in the matter that the Court of Appeal had actually stayed further proceeding. In fact, the copy I have here says an order of this honorable court, this is what was requested, staying further proceedings pending before the Federal High Court, Abuja Division, pending hearing and determination of this appeal lodged before this honorable court, delivered by Justice Peter Alifo on April the 26th, 2020, April 27, 2026. And it was actually granted because here I'm seeing, pursuant to Order 4, Rule 10 and 11 of the Court of Appeal 2021, the application filed on the 4th of May 2026 is granted, staying further proceedings in suit number pending the hearing. This appeal is adjourned to October. So there was a stay granted at the Court of Appeal pending the hearing at that Court of Appeal. But the trial court has gone ahead. How does this work in law?
Simplicity, where the Court of Appeal has granted it, the lower court should stay. That means that they should really and truly not continue with the trial. However, it would be interesting to find out what the Court of Appeal was, the basis of which the Court of Appeal made that order. what was it that Honorable Justice Lifo had decided to warrant the appeal which was lodged by a court party? Don't forget, there were other parties in that matter. We are running up to the elections coming up in January. The Court of Appeal has adjourned the matter to October for hearing, and then the determination may take maybe another month or so. Now, chicken and the egg, which would we prefer? That this matter be stayed till October, and in that case, a decision is then taken by the Court of Appeal saying that, oh yes, indeed, truth, the INEC had the authority to deregister, and then what will happen after that? So we must bear in mind that, yes, indeed, and in truth, I would say this as a legal practitioner, when the Court of Appeal gives an order for stay, it will amount to some measure of disrespect if the lower court persists in going on with the trial. But then again, as I said, it will be interesting to know what exactly a court party had taken before the Court of Appeal to warrant the order for stay. And, well, yes, then again, there's truth.
Yes, so let us say, so how does the judiciary address things like this? Because me, I just want to stay with the legalese. The politicians can argue about the Constitution. Because I know that one of the premise of jurisdiction and contempt of court was determined in the PDP case. The majority judgment dwelt on the issue of contempt of court, so favored the Abdurrahman's led PDP, while the dissenting judgment was saying jurisdiction should take preeminence, and that's been the debate. So if the lower courts, I don't know whether to use the word in breach, I don't know how it's used in law, if the lower court disrespect the decision of the appeal court to stay in this matter, how should the litigants in this particular case respond? Should it be obeyed? Should INEC obey this order of courts? That's one question. Second question for your dissemination as we begin to wind down, sir, is the persons, do they have the locus to institute this suit, the persons that instituted this suit?
Now, the question about locus is, are they interested parties? Not necessarily aggrieved. They are a forum of formal legislation. Now, they're not asking for orders for themselves as such. In a manner of speaking, it's like, when you talk about administrative law, where you say that a party may go before the court to say that this agency or department that has a responsibility to do certain things has omitted to do it. And you then say to the court, ask them to do what the law requires of them. So that's a situation where, well, can the court say, oh, this party before me do not have the locus, but staring me in the face is indeed and in truth a breach of the law or the Constitution or an omission by INEC to fulfill its responsibility? Should I, on that technical ground, simply knock it out? That's a question for determination. However, from what you have asked me, yes, indeed, what I would expect the relevant party here, our court party, to do is to rush to the Court of Appeal, file an appeal, or ask for an accelerated hearing of the earlier appeal. If that will determine what their grievance is before the Court of Appeal, before the trial court, go before the Court of Appeal and say, this is what we have experienced. We want an accelerated hearing of the appeal, which we lodged in 2025 or 2026, and we want a speedy hearing of it so that we're not caught by the decision of the lower court. That, I think, would have been my own advice to them. But having said that, again, I think political parties and politicians need to carry around with them a magnifying glass to ensure that every aspect of the law and every aspect of the Constitution is fulfilled at all times. You cannot afford to gloss over something and hope that the judge or the courts will assist you. Your primary responsibility is to ensure that you do what is right at all times. I still think that we're going to find situations like this coming up whilst the elections is ahead of us and after the elections have taken place.
So does the NDC have a moral ground to say they will be heading to the NJC to maybe reprimand Justice Peter Lifo. If they do that, it will be the second party in recent history to have done that. I don't know whether he was listed, but I remember that I think there was it should be PDP that had actually said they want, I think they wrote to the Justice So when it comes to trial court, about 3 judges. I think Justice Omotosho was listed, I think Lifo was listed, Abdul Malik was listed, I can't remember all, but I think these are the names that crossed my mind on possible reprimand because they felt that cases that go to them from the Nyesom Wiki group always favor those people. So I'm bringing that as a premise to ask whether if accepting without considering that they did not do their work, or do they have a moral right to go and approach the NJC to say, take a second look at this judge?
Well, the room is open there. The doors are open there for you to approach the NJC if you feel that a judge has not acted true to his oath of office. And you must have evidence to show that. It's not enough to say that, well, I did not like his judgment. Having said that, I think also, like Caesar's wife, only the above board, or must be seen to the above board. I think for the man who is on the Obalende bus, the question he'll ask is, are there only 3 or 4 judges at the Federal High Court in Abuja? Now, why does it seem that we have cases of this nature almost always going before such a number? I'm not the administrative judge. I'm not the chief judge. So it's not in my place to determine who hears or who determines a particular matter. But then again, as I said, we must act in such a way that anyone who is out there looking from outside does not think that anything untoward has been done. Thank you.
Well, we could expand the conversation a lot further, to find out. I wonder if you've spoken to this earlier on the timing of this all, why the plaintiffs, didn't deem it fit to present this case just after the 2023 presidential election, and what this means as lessons for, smaller political parties in our supposed multi-party system, what the lessons are for them. If you can do that in 60 seconds.
Like I said earlier, first of all, political parties and politicians need to have a magnifying glass along with the lawyers to ensure that every aspect of the law or regulations or guidelines are fulfilled at all times. You cannot hope that, well, we'll go to the courts and because of a likelihood of acrimony by voters or the electorate, the judge would dare not grant an order that we do not like against us. Then again, you talk about the timing. I think this matter was instituted in 2025, and if that's the case, then it means that those who went to ADC had ample time to retrace their steps. So you see, you find that a situation has arisen where they went to ADC, I think in September last year or thereabout, and this suit was instituted maybe just before that or just after that. Then the question is, should they have persisted in that error? You do not persist in an error when it stares you in the face. There are other political parties that probably would have been able to use, but here we are, for example, NDC is not affected, I think, because they are a newer party, they haven't gone through the cycle, and I hope that in this cycle of elections, they would win or comply with Section 225 so that they can always, have their names on the ballots. But we really and truly cannot afford to have names on the ballot of political parties that are just dead goods. Unfortunately, as I said, I do not think those who went to ADC took a good look. I think it is also possible that INEC probably just shuts its eyes and said, well, let's allow this to slide so that we don't have the accusation of trying to have a one-party state. But then again, these people saw it, brought it before the court, and the responsibility of the court is to apply law.
And we'll watch this developing story as it unfolds. We must thank you very much. Mr. Kade Adelola is a senior advocate of Nigeria who has brought his experience and expertise to bear on this subject. Thank you for your time on the program, sir.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's not all as far as this judgment is concerned. We'll be hearing from the ADC themselves, so stay with us. We'll be right back.